The Villisca Axe-Murders, a century-old mystery. On a warm June evening in 1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, seemed perfectly ordinary. Families attended church, neighbors chatted on their porches, and children played in the fading summer light. Yet, before dawn the next morning, the Moore family home would become the site of one of the most brutal and mysterious crimes in American history. 8 people, including 6 children, were murdered in their beds. More than a century later, the case remains unsolved, leaving behind only speculation, fear, and a legacy of unanswered questions. Josiah Joe Moore was a respected businessman and a devoted family man. He lived with his wife Sarah and their 4 children, Herman, Mary Catherine, Arthur, and Paul. The Moores were known in town as friendly and active in the community. On the night of June 9, 1912, the family attended a Children's Day service at their church. 2 young girls, friends of Mary Catherine, were invited to stay the night afterwards. This simple sleepover would seal their tragic fate. Sometime after midnight, while the town slept, an intruder entered the Moore residence. Investigators later determined that the killer used an oil lamp for light, but left the chimney removed, creating only a dim glow. The murderer struck first at Josiah and Sarah Moore. Josiah suffered the most brutal blows. His face was so badly damaged he was nearly unrecognizable. The rest of the family, along with the 2 visiting girls, were killed in their beds with similar precision. The weapon was Josiah's own axe, which the killer left at the scene. What disturbed investigators was not only the savagery of the crime, but also the strange details that followed. Every mirror in the house had been covered with cloth, windows were draped with fabric. Each victim's face was hidden beneath sheets or clothing. It was as if the killer could not bear to look at what he had done, or perhaps it was part of some ritual. The next morning, when the Moores failed to appear outside for chores, neighbors grew concerned. A family friend entered the home and immediately realized something was terribly wrong. Authorities were called, but by the time the sheriff arrived, townspeople had already crowded into the house. Curious onlookers wandered through the rooms, contaminating the scene and destroying evidence. In 1912, forensic science was limited, and the chaotic intrusion left investigators with little to work with. Despite the poor handling of the crime scene, several suspects emerged. One was Frank Jones, a wealthy local businessman and rival of Josiah Moore. The 2 men had a tense history, with rumors of personal grudges. Some believed Jones had the motive and means to arrange the murders. Another was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher with a disturbing reputation. He had attended the same church service the Moores were at that evening. Kelly was later caught writing letters to women and had a history of erratic behavior. At one point, he even confessed to the murders, but his confession was inconsistent and later recanted. A third suspect, William Mansfield, was thought to be a serial killer responsible for other axe murders in the Midwest. Some investigators saw striking similarities between the crimes, but with each lead came doubt, evidence was flimsy, and witnesses gave conflicting statements. Trials were held, but no one was ever convicted. Theories and unanswered questions. The case sparked endless speculation. Was it a personal act of revenge, the work of a deranged preacher, or a drifter passing through town who killed without reason? The peculiar details, the covered mirrors, the victims' faces hidden, the calm placement of lamps, suggested to some that the crime had a ritualistic or psychological element. To others, it was simply the work of a calculated murderer who vanished into the night. Even today, historians and true crime enthusiasts debate the evidence. Some argue Reverend Kelly remains the most likely suspect, while others believe the murders were part of a larger pattern of unsolved axe killings across the Midwest during that era. The Moore house still stands in Villisca. It has been preserved as a museum, drawing visitors, ghost hunters, and curiosity seekers. Many claim the house is haunted, reporting footsteps, voices, and strange sensations. Whether or not one believes in the paranormal, the unease inside the house is undeniable. More than 110 years later, the Villisca Axe-Murders remain one of the most infamous unsolved cases in American history. 8 lives were taken in a single night. The killer was never caught, and the town of Villisca, once ordinary and quiet, became forever tied to mystery, horror, and speculation. The Villisca Axe-Murders are a haunting reminder of how fragile safety can be, even in the most peaceful places. The unanswered questions about motive, identity, and justice continue to echo through history.